Hey everybody, it's your girl, it's Queen Offset Haru, and I'm here today with another exciting edition of Ask an Aquarius. I got on my super fly sunglasses that my friend Keisha gave me. I adore them. I love anything that's pink. And I'm really enjoying the yard. I have the prettiest view in this yard. So, really enjoying the yard today. So, let me get right to today's question. Today's question was, Queen, what do you do on the full moon? Okay, so typically, right, every full moon I post happy full moon. Sometimes on a new moon I might say happy new moon. I may say, okay, it's time for me to go cast some spells, or I might say something like that. Now, mind you, when I say that, certain people conjure up these very odd images. They have images in their mind of me, like maybe sitting in a yard with a black pot brewing up some kind of stew to feed small children or something like that. So I wanted to kind of clear up the confusion, because even though it really does amuse me, I thought it would be good to really kind of, explain what it is that witches, shamans, priestesses, priests do during the full moon. Now, I often use those terms interchangeably. The reason why is because they're not exactly the same. Those terms come from different cultures. What you call the magic worker in that society. So they come from different cultures, but we pretty much all do the same thing. And I have trained with different traditions, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint down exactly. I call myself a priestess, but I'm actually a witch. I manipulate magic. That's what we all do. A priestess, a shaman, a witch, a bruja. We all do the same kind of thing. We all manipulate magic, and we manipulate it positively or negatively depending on our intentions. I told you in an earlier video I only use magic positively, and different people have different views on that. So they ask, what do you do? What do I do during the full moon? Okay, so the the way that these spiritual traditions work is that most of us are traditions that work with the natural cycles of the earth and the universe. So we work with the planet, we work with herbs, we work with plants, we work with the moon, we work with the sun, we work with animals in some cases, spirits. We work with these energies. And the thing about it is that these are all things, like they call witchcraft supernatural. It's really just working with nature. It's not really supernatural, it's just natural. We're just working with nature. I think what has happened in our society is that we have seen so much TV. I always tell people when they talk about witchcraft, they've seen too much TV. People have seen Charmed, people have seen Bewitched, people have seen television programs, and they don't know where the fantasy ends and where the reality begins. If you've seen Harry Potter, you're wondering, like, is it, you're thinking, is this fake? To what extent is this real? But it is real to an extent. The ones you see on television and in movies are exaggerations of what's really going on. The same way if you watch any other fiction movie, it's an exaggeration of what's going on. For instance, if you watch John Q, John Q is an exaggeration of a situation with a father whose child has incurable disease and needs a transplant. So the father goes on this whole vigilante kind of thing to get his kid a heart, and the kid ends up getting a heart, and the father ends up going to jail. But the point of the matter is that it's an exaggeration. It may have actually happened before, but typically these scripts are written from somebody's imagination. It's the same thing with witchcraft. Some of what they do is they take the stuff that's real, the stuff that really does happen, and exaggerate it. So, okay, yeah, we do rituals on the full moon. Yes, we do rituals on the new moon. But I'm not sitting in the yard with a cauldron and a pointy hat. Not to say, not to say that nobody ever has. I'm sure that the pointy hat came from somewhere. I just don't know, really know where. I think it came from Europe, according to what I read, but I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I just know that it's not what I do. So, the thing about it is that, I want to, in this video especially, bring to you the reality of what actually happens, and this is what it is. So because of the fact that we work with the cycles and we work with things of the earth, we work on the full moon. We've come to find that the full moon and the new moon are two moons that are really good for magical workings. I don't know how my ancestors figured this out, but different traditions have figured this out independently, that those two moons are really powerful for when you want to do any kind of manifestation work. So if you want to bring things into your life, new things, positive things, money, relationships, whatever, you do rituals on the new moon. The new moon is the beginning of the moon cycle, so it's a time for bringing in what you want to bring towards you. During the full moon, you can do anything you want. The full moon is the most powerful moon, and you can do anything that you want. You can send things away, you can bring things towards you, you can do basically whatever it is that you need to do. On the full moon is when I typically do work for my clients. So if my clients have asked me to do a love spell, if they've asked me to do a prosperity spell, if they've asked me to do a protection spell, if they've asked me to remove a hex or a curse from them or a bad energy, bad juju, I do it on the full moon typically. Only utilize the new moon's energy when it's something that really needs to get going, something that needs to be done immediately, that needs to come towards this person immediately. There's also the moon when it is waning, when it's in its darkest phase towards the end. That's when a lot of people like to use that energy to send things away, but I usually use the full moon energy for that. Now, the stuff that I've told you right now comes from me learning from different traditions. Now, different priestesses, different witches, different shamans will do this in different ways. Some of us will do full moon magic before the moon is full and allow the magic to go through the phase. Some of us wait until the moon is exactly full and then start the magic. We all do this a little bit different, but it's basically the same kind of thing. It's just that the nuances, the specifics are different from different cultures because obviously they cropped up from different groups of people. But some of the things are very universal and we all do them, such as most of us use the moon. Most of us work with plants and earth energy. Most of us do these things, maybe in different ways. So on the full moon, I do anything that I have to do for my clients, any positive magic my clients have asked me to do, anything that I need to do for myself. So if I need money, if I need protection, if I need cleansing, whatever I need during that time, that is what I'm going to do. Now, if it's a moon where my clients didn't need anything, I didn't need anything, the minimum of what I will do is cleansing. Now, I believe that people should cleanse every full moon. I really do. And for me, honestly, I cleanse every day. What do I mean by cleanse? Okay, let's get into that. So even if I don't have anything to do, I believe that every full moon you should cleanse your space. All kinds of energies come around you and in your home. Sometimes you don't even know what's coming in your home. So for instance, somebody could have bad energy and they come into your home and you just be like, my house ain't feel right after Sheila came over. Something just wasn't right. Sheila could have an entity attached to her. Sheila could just be a nasty person. Sheila could have a curse on her. You don't know what happened with Sheila. So you just know that something don't feel right. And your intuition is telling you that the house been kind of off. So that's what I mean by cleansing. Cleansing of your space and cleansing of yourself. Likewise, you might have had an argument with your significant other and you can just feel like a doom cloud over the house. It's time for you to cleanse your space. So that's what I mean by cleansing. Cleansing bad energy, cleansing bad auras, cleansing bad spirits, cleansing just this nasty energy. And we all come across it and we all accumulate it. And those of us who are empaths or those of us who do magical kind of workings, even if you're doing them sometimes, we're very susceptible to these kind of things attaching to us, absorbing negative energy. So I tell people, if you're going to do this kind of energy, even if it's sometimes, every full moon you should cleanse. Even if you don't have anything else to do, you should cleanse. Now, how do you cleanse yourself? How do you cleanse your space? There are numerous ways. Everybody you ask will probably give you 30 different ones. I'm just going to tell you the ones that I use for myself. First of all, there are baths you can take. Typically, it's like some type of an herbal bath, basically, and you use the salts, the earth, the herbs, whatever you put into the bath to cleanse yourself of negative energy. There are lots of different baths you can take. There's protection baths. In this case, we're talking about cleansing, so there's lots of different cleansing baths you can take. And you can find the recipes in witch books. You can find them. Judica Isles has a book called 5,000 Spells, and that book has numerous things like that in it. And if you don't want to pay for the book, you can Google cleansing baths, cleansing bath rituals online, and I guarantee you at least 30 will probably come up in the first couple seconds. That's one way I utilize and I like a lot, cleansing baths. Usually I make my own. I get herbs for cleansing and protection, and I put them in my cauldron. I stir them babies up, and I go into the shower, and there's my cleansing bath. Or I get into a bathtub, and there's my cleansing bath. I dump it over myself, or whatever the case is, and you cleanse yourself of energies. That's one way to cleanse your person. Now, typically, I do a combination of all these ways, but it depends. If you wanted to do just one, you can. I do a combination. So if I take a bath, the next thing I would do, I would cleanse my space. Now, the space cleansing I actually do first. You can use a number of things to cleanse your home. Your space is your home. Your whole entire home. You want to cleanse the whole thing. Most people will tell you the first thing you should do is clean it, like just naturally clean it. Clean up, make your bed, dust away, mop up, just clean the house. Okay. Now, in cleaning the house in itself, you can use what they call floor wash. Again, you would have to have a recipe for floor wash. Some people use Florida water. It's a number of different things. So you would take a floor wash and cleanse your floors. That's one thing you could do. Then some people, like myself, like to use a smudge. Smudging is when you use an herb, something that you burn to smoke out the place. The idea is to chase out bad energy. People will often use different herbs. Usually what I do is I open up all the windows and I use an herb such as sage, for example. So you go into the furthest distance. If you have a house that's 1, 2, 3 stories, you go to the basement. You go to the furthest distance. If you have a house that is just like an apartment, you go to the back and work your way forward. You're pushing whatever it is out. That's the idea. So I'll go into my bedroom, which is the furthest room back. I'll light my sage, and I will just wave my sage under the beds, in the closets, in the corners, all through the place, and I will tell bad energy, get out. I cast you out. I rebuke you. I cast you out. And I walk through and I keep on throwing the smoke. And I do this throughout, from, like I said, back forward. So I do my room first, then my daughter's room, then the bathroom. I just keep coming forward and out the door. So you can use sage. You also can use this. This is one of my favorites. I was just using this today. This is called Palo Santo. I don't know a lot about it, but I'll tell you what I do now, and this is why I use it. It's from the South American or Central American tradition, depending upon who you ask. And it is a piece of wood, as you can see. It's from a tree. And this is said to be a sacred wood. And when you burn it, it chases away bad energy and draws in positive energy. Now, I carry this one in my wallet, actually. So if I'm ever anywhere and anybody, is funky, or if I'm in a space and I think it needs to be cleansed, I will light this bad boy and be like, woo. So this is another thing you could use to do a smudge when you're home. You could start from the back, like I said, in my room, and just come forward with it. All you do is light it and just let the smoke get everywhere. So you could use Palo Santo. People use sage. People also, sage is the one that most people see the most, but it's actually not the one that's the most powerful. Palo Santo actually is stronger than sage, some would say. Also, frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh, to me, is like the strongest combination. And there's other combinations too, other things, but this frankincense and myrrh is one of the strongest ones because it's the one that they use to chase away demons. So that's the ones that I typically use when somebody has a real serious problem in their home, or when I want to do a deep cleanse. I use frankincense and myrrh. It's my favorite too. And frankincense and myrrh typically it's a resin, like a hard rock, not the frankincense and myrrh sticks. I'm talking about the resins. And what you do is you get these charcoals, little black charcoals, and you burn rocks on the charcoals. And again, you walk through with the smoke from the frankincense and myrrh. So if somebody has something that is evil, then that is what I will use immediately. There's other kinds of herbs and things that people burn. Some people burn basil. It's a number of things, actually. I would say like maybe 20 or 30 different herbs that can cleanse and protect. So that's the other thing that you can do. You can smudge your space. Now, like I said, I typically do a combination of these things. I usually smudge the space after I've cleaned it, and then I do a bath. And then another thing that you can do, which is very easy, is to use white candles. So I may take 1 or 2 white candles and light the white candles. Now, these are all things that cleanse you, cleanse your space, and they can be done on any full moon. And again, I was talking earlier about the new moon. The new moon is for things that you want to draw it towards you. So if you need more money, if you need a job, if you need better relationships with your friends and your family, this is the time to do that. So you will find the new moon and use that energy to draw things in. Now, this one. I said that I had different ways of cleansing yourself. Here's a different one. This is called selenite. Selenite is one of my favorite crystals. It has the angels vibration. They always say it vibrates like the angels. So with selenite is another way that you can cleanse yourself. Some people just hold it and just feel the energies going through them. Some people take it and just wave it around themselves just to feel the energy. Another way of cleansing. So that's another thing that you can do. You can use crystals if you want to cleanse yourself. So on the full moon, you have a number of different options. And like I said, cleansing yourself is usually the easiest thing to do. Usually when somebody is brand new to craft, that's how I train them. I train them to utilize the energy of the moon by first cleansing and healing thyself. So first thing I would have them do is cleansing rituals. Cleanse your home, cleanse your space, learn how to do that. That's the first thing you want to do anyway, because if you're going to be doing magic, you need to learn how to get rid of energies that you don't want. Sometimes you do come across energies that are negative. Sometimes you come across spirits that are negative. Sometimes it's just your own funky energy that you need to cleanse. But whatever the case is, these are some methods that will help you. Now, let me wrap up with the new moon. I was telling you that the new moon can help you bring in things that you want. So what would I do to bring in things that I want during the new moon? I would probably cleanse first. I always cleanse first. I always cleanse my person and my space first. No matter what ritual, no matter what it is, no matter if it's Halloween, new moon, full moon, I don't care what it is. That's the first thing I do. And then I would probably do prosperity rituals on a new moon. Prosperity rituals or rituals to draw towards me, spells to draw things towards me, things that I want to come forward. So one of those two things is what I would do on the new moon. And like I said earlier, some people work on the dark of the moon, and the dark of the moon is typically for getting, you can do other things during this moon too, but when I use it, I'm getting rid of things. So if somebody is harassing me, or if somebody is just, won't go away, messing with one of my clients or something like that, I'll work with the energy of that moon sometimes. I usually just use it if I really need it, because like I said before, I really like utilizing the full moon. I have the best results when working with and using the full moon for my workings. That's my favorite moon. All right, so there we go. So I've told you about the new moon. I've told you what I do on the full moon, and that is what I do. When you ask me about spells, people say, how do you cast a spell? Well, after all this cleansing has gone on, then you cast your spell. You'll sit at your altar, and whatever the spell is, I don't know, because different spells, there's so many different ways to do them. But I'm going to give you an example of an easy one. Let's say you're going to do candle magic. So you'll sit at your altar or your sacred space. You'll take your candle, you'll cleanse your candle, you will write your intention on your candle, or put a piece of paper with your intention under the candle. You'll oil your candle, you'll dress your candle in whatever way you're going to dress it. Some people oil it with oil, some people put herbs on it. If it's something you want to draw towards you, you oil it towards you. If it's something you want to go away, you oil it away from you. And after your candle is oiled and you sprinkled your herbs in it and put your, your hair or whatever you want to use, something from you. Usually I use my hair because I always cut the trim. I trim it sometimes, so I keep it and I use my hair. And then after that, after your DNA is in it and your candle's all ready to go, you sit it there and you say your prayers at your altar. You call upon whatever spirits you're calling upon. You give them an offering in most traditions, and you ask for their help. You cast a spell. You basically say the incantation. You light the spell. You light the candle, and there it is. Most cases, you come back to the candle, maybe every so often, every hour. It depends on how long the candle is going to burn. If it's a 7-day candle, you'll come back once a day. In some cases, some people choose to come back more often. If it's a fast candle, it's going to be like for 12 hours. You might come back repeatedly throughout the night. That's why when people do magic work for somebody, they usually charge them, because it's work. It is work. It's not like you're just going to light the candle like a crock pot and walk away. You have to keep working on it and keep praying on it and keep, putting your energy into it until the spell is done. So, a lot of times I'll hear people say, they think somebody put a spell on them. And I'm like, do you know how much time, energy, effort, and money goes into putting a spell on someone? So if the person didn't have a reason, that's probably not what happened. I've been accused of that before. People are like, oh, I think she put a spell on me. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you're not worth the money to, to put a spell on you. Are you serious? For what? Like, typically that's just fear, like stupid fear, because typically, a good light workers, positive workers don't do stuff like that anyway. And people who even do stuff like that usually don't without some kind of a reason. Might not be a good reason, but they have some kind of a reason. They don't just typically just do that, for fun. The only case I've heard of people doing it in that kind of way, and it wasn't even for fun, it was for money. I've heard of magic workers throwing bad juju just so people had to pay them to take it off. So I have heard of that. But typically, and that's not even, I didn't even hear that in America. I heard it outside of the country, outside of the Americas, I'll say. So I think that does go on. But even with that, it's not as frequent. Usually if somebody put a spell on you, it's because they're angry about something, or they need revenge or something like that, something negative and something along those lines. But most of us any of us that are light workers are not going to put nasty spells on people. So the times I've been accused of that, I've looked at people sideways like, you watching too much TV, like, please. And that's why, because like I said, it's a real process. It's a real commitment. You don't just cast a spell like you light a crock pot and go to bed. You have to keep coming back throughout the night and praying and sending positive energy and watching the candle and seeing what it's doing, because you're reading the candle. Like, you're seeing how it's responding to you. For instance, if you do a spell and light the candle and come back and the candle went out, not a good sign. You light it again and come back, it went out again, not a good sign that your spell's working. So there's different things that the candle will communicate to you. So if your candle keeps going out, that's a spell that's not working for you. It's something you might as well give up on, or you need to do something else. And in that case, I would consult the tarot to find out, like, why is this spell not working? What's the problem? So those are some ideas of the things that I do on the full moon. It's not, like I said before, it's not as exciting or dramatic as some would think, but it is a way of life for those of us who do this kind of work. It's our way of life. Spells remind me of very concentrated prayers. That's what they remind me of. When I watch Christians pray or Muslims pray, I'm like, they're casting a spell. Basically, and that's what it looks like to me, because they're calling upon their God to help them, to guide them, to do whatever it is they need. And that's what we're doing. We're lighting our candles and we're saying our prayers and using our correspondences and working with the phases of the moon and asking our spirits, our guides, our God to please, our goddess to please help us in these different areas. So we're basically all doing the same thing, but we do it differently. And so it's like we all look at each other like, what are you doing? You know, but it's the same thing. We're all calling upon our higher power to help. We're all calling for help. We're all putting up bat signals, quite frankly, for the different things that we need. And, you know, it's a very powerful energy, especially when you do it at the right time. Now, the last thing I'll tell you, when people ask me, how do you know when to cast a spell? First of all, there is a book called The Witch's Date Book. It's by Lewin. Lewin is a company that does this date book. And the Witch's Date Book I buy every year because it is the most handy piece of equipment you can have in your witch arsenal. Basically, it tells you every day where the moon is. Now, you could find this information out for free. You can Google it online yourself if you want to, but it's a little bit more difficult because you have to look it up, you have to Google it, and it's all together in the book. So why do all that? So in the book, it'll tell you the day. So like today, whatever today's date is, and it'll tell you where the moon is. And it'll tell you anything else you need to know about the moon, the stars, the planets, anything like that. It'll be right there. So if you're planning to cast a spell, bam, open it up. October 1st, okay, this is what's happening. And you can sit and plan what spells are best to cast. Now, depending upon the moon, where the moon is, that's how you know. If it's in the new moon phase, you're not going to cast a spell for things you want to go away, because quite frankly, that's not the best time. You're going to wait to the full moon, or you're going to wait to the latter when the moon is waning or getting darker. So that's what you're going to wait, you know. If it's an emergency, you have to do it right then, you'll do it. But it's not the best moon for it. It'll also tell you what zodiac sign the moon is in. Again, if you're going to cast a spell, it's good to do it in a zodiac sign that corresponds with that energy. If you're doing a love spell, it's best to do it in a loving sign, like Cancer is a really loving sign. I would never, maybe even Libra, I would never do a love spell in Leo because it's not exactly the most romantic energy in my opinion, so I wouldn't do it during that space. But it just depends on what you're trying to do. So you look up the zodiac sign, you look up where the moon is. So these are things that you find out from this Witch's Date Book. And then you see, okay, I want to cast a prosperity spell. The moon is in New. The moon is in Capricorn. Ooh, this is a great time because Capricorn is all about money and it's a new moon, so I need money to come in. Boom, boom, bam. There you go. So that's how you figure out when to cast your spells, based on when the energy corresponds with what you need. And like I said before, if it's a full moon, you can pretty much do anything positive, as far as like if you want to do prosperity, love, protection, anything that you want to do, full moon energy is good for it. And all you have to really do is figure out, is the zodiac sign correct for it? And where the moon is. You don't want to cast spells when the moon is void of course. Void of course means it's not in any particular sign. It's in between. It's not in Capricorn or Aquarius. It's in between the two. And sometimes the moon is void of course. And the Lewin Witch's Date Book will tell you when it's void of course and when it's going to come out of void of course. So this book is really handy for those things. It tells you when things go retrograde. A lot of people know about Mercury retrograde because Mercury retrograde, even if you're not a witch, is notorious for messing your stuff up. So a lot of people will say, oh, it's Mercury retrograde again. Like they know about it, like, you know. So the book will tell you when Mercury goes in retrograde, when Venus goes retrograde, when anything along that lines is happening. So the Lewin Witch's Date Book is how I do plan all of my spells. So that's what I do during the full moon. It doesn't take long to cast it initially. That whole process might take me an hour or two. And then coming back is what may take a lot more time. And usually I light a 7-day candle, so it may take up to 7 days to work on that spell before I'm finished with it. So that's what I do on the new and the full moon. It's a very basic understanding. I gave you a really quick understanding of it because, mind you, these understandings can I could write books about each one by itself. I've seen books about each one by itself. If you get a book, a witch's book from Judica Isles or from Silver Raven Wolf or from anybody for that matter, Christopher Benzak, from anybody who writes hoodoo or whatever, if you get any spiritual magical books, this information is in it, and is volumes or paragraphs or chapters. It depends. I'm just giving you a quick overview of what I do during the moon. So there you are. This video is 30 minutes now, so I've given you all the information, and I hope it helps you. Take care, guys. This is Queen Osetta Rue, and I will be back with another question for Ask an Aquarius.